Okay, I don't want this video to be filed under drama or any of the infighting issues that's been going on. If you're going to file this video away under something probably really, really low grade amateur philosophy would perhaps be, I don't know whether it would be a more accurate category. It would be a category that I'd prefer you to file it away under as I chew on my Peppa Pig pencil like any good low grade amateur philosopher. I've been thinking more about this subject of gendered slurs and splash damage, and there's something associated with it that's just not quite rung true, but I've not quite been able to put my finger on it, thinking of the way in which some of these terms are used. Some terms in specifically genitalia terms used to refer as an insult to individuals, and then comparing that with words like nigger and faggot and things of that ilk. So I want to try and explain where I'm at with this so far. So the first thing I need to do is a little recap. Sorry if you watched the other video, because I'm going to be explaining this similar to what I explained before. Okay, but I've got to go through this bit first. Imagine if I call somebody a cock. Let's imagine I call Concordance, who I choose Concordance simply because he made a video supportive of my position in many ways the other day, so I wouldn't have any grounds to call him a cock, so that's not causing any issues or friction there. Imagine I called Concordance a cock, and I meant that as an insult. That's a direct insult to Concordance, but what people are saying is that for that to be an insult, there must be something insulting. We're referring something insulting, some intrinsic quality, either an actual quality or some kind of metaphorical quality that we're implying within penises, and we're saying that those things apply to that individual, and there's the insult. But that there's splash damage that results, because if that person is insulted by that, what about all the cock owners of the world, the men of the world? They have cocks too. So there's this splash damage. We're actually contributing maybe only a small amount on each occasion that I say, Concordance, you're a cock. Only a small amount, but we're insulting all the cock owners of the world. That's kind of how it goes. So we shouldn't be using these gendered slurs. They're gendered because they're referring to something that only one gender has. If I called him Concordance, you're an asshole, as I went through last time, that wouldn't be so bad because we've all got assholes. Maybe there's still splash damage, I don't know, I've never seen them resolve that one, but if there is, everybody's getting splashed upon, and so that's okay because it's all of humanity as asshole owners that are getting dragged down. But there's a problem with this, and that is because when we talk about calling somebody a cock, for example, when I say Concordance, you're a cock, I'm kind of enjoying saying that now. Nothing personal there, Concordance. When we're saying that, what we're doing is we're saying that there is something intrinsically bad, or not so good, about cocks, yes, but not necessarily cocks as cocks, but something intrinsically bad with cocks when a person is entirely a cock. This is how it's different from words like nigger or words like faggot. When we use the word nigger, what we're suggesting is that there is something intrinsically bad with being a sub-Saharan African. And so when we use that word, you can see what we were referring to somebody who is a sub-Saharan African and saying there is something intrinsically bad with being a sub-Saharan African. With faggot, we're saying there is something intrinsically bad with being a homosexual male. And of course, a homosexual male, again, is entirely a homosexual male. So if we call a homosexual male a faggot, then we are insulting in that kind of way. We can understand how the splash damage argument works. But it's different with cock. It's a bit like if I called concordance a sheep. If I said concordance, you're a sheep, we all understand why that's a slur on concordance. It means he's a bit of a follower. He blindly follows other people in what they do. But that doesn't mean that there's something intrinsically wrong with being a sheep. If you are a sheep, there's nothing wrong in being a sheep. We're not saying there's something intrinsically wrong with being a sheep, or even with owning a sheep. We're not insulting the farmers, the sheep owners. And just the same with cock. We're not insulting cock owners. What we're saying is, if your entire personhood is sheep-like in terms of these characteristics that we ascribe to sheep as being a blind follower of the rest of the flock, then that is a bad thing. And what I'm suggesting is so it is with words like cock, twat, cunt. We're not saying that there's something intrinsically wrong with a cunt being a cunt, with a cock being a cock. We're not saying there's something intrinsically wrong with somebody who owns a cock, somebody who owns a cunt, owns a twat. What we're saying is if in your entirety you manifest yourself in these qualities that we metaphorically ascribe to cocks and twats, then that is a bad thing. That is very, very different. And for that reason I suggest that these people in places that really don't like gendered slurs are much, much, much worse insults than cock or twat or any of these words in terms of splash damage would be the word wanker. And I use the word wanker not just to refer to a man that masturbates, but to refer to anybody who masturbates. If I say to concordance, you're a wanker, just think what I'm saying here. I am saying that there is something intrinsically wrong with being a wanker. But a wanker isn't something that somebody possesses, and it isn't something that we're saying, well, it's okay for a wanker to be a wanker, but if a person is a wanker, then that's a bad thing, because wankers are intrinsically people. They're not just something that a person possesses or a part of a person. So we're saying that there is something intrinsically wrong with being a wanker. Now, some people, male and female, wank, and some people, male and female, refrain from wanking. So what we have again is asymmetric splash damage here. If I call concordance a wanker, I'm splashing with damage the people who wank and not the people who don't wank. So I propose, if there's a word that we really need to strike from the vocabulary as a pejorative term for people, as a slur term for people, it's not cock, it's not twat, it's not cunt, it's not dick, it's not prick, but it's wanker. That's about where I'm at so far. I've differentiated my wankers from my pricks. Well, thank you for listening if you've got this far. Bye for now.